Okay, hi, this is Mickey Myers, and I'm speaking to you on Memorial Day 2020 from Andrew Orr's beautiful home and gardens and barn and studio in Richford, Vermont. Canada is right over my shoulder, and Andrew is 6 feet away from me at this moment. We are socially distanced, but Andrew, we are eager to know what it is that you've been doing during the last 2 months of quarantine. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in your studio?
Indeed. Well, welcome to Richford.
Thank you.
Glad you're here on Memorial Day. Um, so, what I have been working on in the studio has been lots of various projects. I've been doing some paintings, um, one in particular of Acadia National Park for a show at a gallery, and then I've been working on, thankfully, a couple of commissions that have come in. One of the things that I've actually really enjoyed doing is I've enjoyed walking around my own property and discovering areas and scenes on the property which, while I have explored those in years past, I think this year I took a little bit more of a deliberate look at some of those spots. And I've really been observing what's happening with the light, what's happening as the seasons change, what's happening with the colors. Now, I do that all the time with my work anyway, but the area that I'm particularly thinking of is a small grove of trees right at the edge of my property that backs up and overlooks the mountain in the backdrop, rather, is Whiteman Hill. And so I first started kind of exploring this little motive um, back at the end of the winter. And so I saw some snow patches on the ground and so on and so forth, and these lovely trees and everything. And you could see this beautiful silhouette of Whiteman Hill behind. And then, of course, we went through the change of seasons and the snow patches went away. And now we're clearly in a spring season. And so I've been noticing that same little motif where Whiteman Hill now is kind of hidden behind all those spring greens and those trees. I have studied that same spot early in the morning. I have studied it on a cloudy day, on a sunny day. And what I've realized is that within this composition, this very simple composition of meadow, trees, hill, sky, there are multiple paintings which could be had, and we haven't even started with the full-blown summer season yet. And, of course, autumn. So that's one of the things that I've been working on in the studio is, again, finding those little areas on my property which I think could make great paintings and exploring how they may look at different times of day, slightly different seasons, with snow, water puddles, whatever it may be. But it's finding those little jewels and those little gems. That's what it's been, and I've been enjoying that.
Oh, that's beautiful in and of itself. What a beautiful narrative about how your days are going. Can you tell us what keeps you going? We all have been in isolation, and perhaps up here in the northern Vermont, more than ever, you have been experiencing the opportunity to commune with the land. What's it been like for you, and what has gotten you into the studio frequently?
Well, that's a great question. Because in terms of quarantine and self-isolation, this has been the place to do it, that's for sure. I live at the very, very northern part of Vermont, 3 miles from the Canadian border, on a road that has only one other house beyond mine, and so it is indeed quite this kind of awakening of the world. And I think I'm always aware of that, but I think I've been even more aware of it through the challenges that we've all been facing in terms of quarantine, isolation, uncertainty, so on and so forth. I have really enjoyed the variety of birds which have been coming around to the property this year. I've noticed them in years past, but this year they seem to be a little bit more colorful. They seem to be a little bit more cheerful. They seem to be a little more plentiful. I'm noticed the length of daffodil season. It seemed like the daffodils stayed around a little bit longer. It seemed like the peepers were a little bit louder, um, and so I I'm I think what I'm doing is I am taking the excitement that I find from the natural world and the enthusiasm that I get when I see these amazing wood ducks that land in my pond, or when I see these very, very subtle changes in the landscape and these little vignettes that I'm studying and watching and painting and working with. And when I see those things, it makes me want to get into the studio. It makes me want to try to figure out how can I attempt to replicate the subtle changes that I'm seeing in nature, which seem to be so much more obvious. And again, maybe it's because the world is a little bit quieter these days, and take some of that excitement, and that's what gets me into the studio. That's what gets me excited and wanting to move forward with my paintings and the pieces that I've got going.
So, Andrew, are there any surprises? Is there much that has surprised you about yourself, your approach, what you've discovered? Or are there any surprises that are working their way into your work under these extraordinary conditions?
When I first started reading the news and reports and understanding the need for self-quarantine, I already live in a very quiet part of the state of Vermont. And I thought, wow, it's going to get even more quiet. Am I prepared for this? Living alone in this property, can I do this? And one of the things that I've been really pleased with is that sense of the potential that was fear, turning that around and using that as a means to immerse myself in my work and creativity. And so it has been an opportunity to, I think, dig really, really deep and to almost treat my daily walks and to my visits to these trees, um, the visits to the pond, so on and so forth, to treat that almost like a meditative sense of being able to maybe be a little bit more still. So yes, while I may be alone, what comes greater is it's not loneliness, it's stillness. And in that stillness, I feel like I have been able to make some deeper observations than maybe I've allowed to have in the past, or that I've actually taken the time in the past to do. I'm not sure if any of that makes sense.
Yeah. It does.
But so I think that one of the surprises that I've had is, I think, again, because of the stillness, because of the quietness, I have been able to work on some paintings where I feel like the subject of the painting is moving beyond what is represented in the landscape. Meaning, it's not just about water and some trees and the colors of summer. It's now about how is the light falling on those trees? How is the light hitting those trees? How does the light move through those trees and across the water and onto some of the vegetation on the other side of the pond? What is happening to create such stillness and such quietness? And can I convey that in the painting? So yes, I want to make a painting that is aesthetically pleasing, something that is beautiful, something that is recognizable as my work stylistically, but I feel like this spring I've been focusing focusing more clearly on moving beyond the subject, but something of almost, for lack of better terms, the spiritual or the ethereal quality of the subject. And that has surprised me. And that has been something that I have greatly enjoyed. And I've been able to do it, I feel, because I've had the quiet, the stillness, not the chaos and the noise. I'm pretty careful about not having news on all the time. So that's been some of the surprises. That being by myself, I've not felt lonely. I've embraced it as a means for an opportunity to to further delve into my work. But I've also had some surprises in the studio too, with the light and that. Moving beyond just painting a pretty picture.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for inviting us to come up to see your beautiful view. And for those of you who know what a great cook Andrew is, I will say there was some food involved. And we look forward to seeing these paintings at Bryan Memorial Gallery. And for those of you who would like to see paintings by Andrew right now, they are on the gallery's website, bryangallery.org, all the time. Be our guests and stay safe, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you.